Welcome to another session of COMPSTAT Review. With me today, again, Andrew Robinson and David Adamczyk. So we'll go right into it, guys.
Absolutely.
So for murders, we're 0 across the board, 0 versus 1 compared to last year, down 100%. And for rape, criminal sexual conduct, and I think we had a discussion about the way that is termed.
So our criminal sexual conducts, as we refer to on our reports historically under rape, what we're looking for to convey to the public is that it's the forceful penetration is really where we're talking about criminal sexual conduct, first degree and third degree in these numbers.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, being from New York, we identified certain terminology we use a little differently. And like I said, in the penal law system here in Michigan, they use the term criminal sexual conduct, but we're focusing on what you mentioned there is the forcible.
We call them arrests. You call them collars.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's nice, the East Coast versus Midwest.
Absolutely.
And it's really great. But at the end of the day, policing is policing, no matter what you call it, or we combat these crimes. And for robberies, for criminal sexual conduct or rape, forcible rape, 1 versus 0, and then we have for the year today we're 6 versus 10, so we're down 40%. For robberies, 0. For week to date, we took no robberies last week, and also for the 20-day, it looks good. 1 versus 5, we're down 80% for robberies, and also for the year to date, we're 20 versus 28, so we're down 28%. For felonious assaults, we're 1 versus 2, we're down 50%, and for the 28-day, we're 4 versus 7, we're down 42%. And for the year to date, we're slightly up, 78 versus 74, but we're heading in the right direction. For burglaries, we're 0 versus 2. This is the second week that we didn't take a burglary. Thankfully, due to the great work of the men and women of the Hamtramck Police Department and detectives. And for the 20-day, we're 2 versus 6. We're down 66%. And for the year to date for burglaries, we're down 50 versus 60, down 16%.
And I know, Chief, we were talking before this with Andrew as well. Our department will probably be putting out communication here in the coming few weeks that will reflect some of the fine work of some members of this department and some other areas that will gladly lend to the reason why these numbers are falling. And I think that the public will be very happy to hear on that. And I know that the department's going to be proud to put that out because we kind of spearheaded those efforts. So I think that that's going to greatly reflect. I know we're kind of doing that in a teaser, but it's still an ongoing investigation. So.
Yeah, I know Andrew was directly involved into that, and we worked with multiple agencies, including Michigan State Police of Detroit, as well as others. And it was a great work by our detectives and the men and women of the various different agencies. But obviously, due to the sensitivity and at this time, eventually we'll give it out there. But we do believe that it's really directly related to this because the persons involved were involved in some of these burglaries that we see in the recent past. Anything want to add, Andrew?
Not at this time, but yeah, once we're able to release more information, I'm sure we will put it out for all of you.
Yep. So for larcenies, we're 0 versus 2, down 100% for the week to date, and for the 28-day, we're 0 versus 4, down 100%. We haven't taken a larceny, and for the year to date, we're 15 versus 11, up 36%. So we're heading in the right direction there. We're going to talk a little more. We're going to go in depth with the auto theft, and like I said, for the week to date. We do see here 4 versus 1, so we're up 3. And then we look at the 20-day with 13 versus 7, so we're up significantly, up 85%. However, for the year to date, we are still down 12%, 121 versus 139. So Dave, and Andrew, you could come in here. I think we spoke about this, about especially more specifically the incidents that occurred last week.
So Andrew, at first, you want to go into some of these because I think
I can't. I wasn't sure if we were going to go through them now or afterwards. So to kind of circle back to our felonious assault, we had one in the past week. It was perpetrated by a known suspect, and that is currently open and under investigation. Now, as far as our auto thefts, we see our nice recurring theme, not so nice recurring theme, where Hyundai Motor Group cars, 2 Kias and 1 Hyundai were 3 of our prime targets. I will say that 2 of those Kias appear to, and I can't confirm this, but they appear to have had the fix done to them because those were only attempted UDAs attempted auto thefts rather than the car didn't end up getting stolen. So yes, there was some damage to the vehicle, including to the steering column and the windows, but the car is still there.
And with those UTAs, specifically the Kias, there's a case that actually I was on the road earlier this week, and I think it's most important to let the public know that the arrest that happened earlier in the week, there was a lot of activity, a lot of police presence around the Trowbridge, Belmont area between Joseph Campo and Brombeck and some of those areas, and we got lots of calls. But these arrests were by two juveniles that were trying to get into a Kia. And in that, they, and the similar car group, but they're predominantly looking at, it's an opportunistic time, not because of Hamtramck or where you are, Detroit or whatever. It's specifically a car manufacturer issue that they've discovered the vulnerability, and obviously criminals are able to take advantage of that. But these particular arrests were, I think we should let the public know, were the only, everybody in the department that day was completely happy with the public, because if it wasn't for our residents, there's no way that these people would have been apprehended. If they saw something, they called. If they saw something, they called on more than one occasion. When they saw people running through the yard, when they saw people trying to get into the vehicle, they saw somebody that, there was a juvenile that ran through a yard and took some clothing off of a clothesline. They called and reported that, which aided officers throughout this entire process. It was actually kind of comical. We actually in the department kind of were laughing that day. We said, hey, we give the kid props for trying to disguise himself, something like you see on the movies. But he
didn't do a good job.
He didn't do a good job, but we give him credit, right? But the thing is, in this, you're not going to outsmart our canine. You're not going to outsmart our officers on the road. We were there. We had containment. We had perimeters because of the way our shifts are. But more importantly, none of this would have been done without the residents.
Yeah, and just to touch on that incident, we did recover a loaded firearm. So, I mean, just touches on the seriousness of these crimes and these individuals. Even though they were juveniles, they were in possession of a loaded firearm. But we thankfully our officers, were not at harm, and they recovered it safely, and no one was hurt as a result. So we thank the public definitely for
Absolutely. As the old law enforcement sort of cliche adage goes, it may seem cliche, but again, if you see something, say something, because that's why we were able to arrest that group of juvenile criminals.
Absolutely.
Other than that, our other stolen this week was a Chrysler. It was stolen by unknown suspects, and it's under investigation. Our detectives have obtained video and are working on it.
When we look at the week today, I just want to say, just the average, total numbers. When we look at the major crimes, week to date, we're 5 versus 7. We're down 28%. For the 28-day, we're 21 versus 29, down 27%. And for the year to date, we're down 10%, 290 versus 323.
Andrew's mentioned it before, and I think what you're leading to, Chief, is that the national average is going up, and we are actually in Hamtramck going down. And I know that a lot of this work also was due to some of the technology that we have in the city. There's ways we actually had a motor vehicle crash that took place at the intersection of Kniff and Lumpkin. Our sergeant on duty immediately went into the technology, put the description of the vehicle in there. We were able to locate some possibilities. We were able to then identify where this vehicle was and track down the person that did a hit and run accident. So, our efforts are not going to the wayside. We are on top of these, but again, the public is just as much in this process with us. We're just as much vouched with them, and they are with us, and we totally appreciate everything that they're doing.
Oh yeah.
We was speaking about auto thefts, and this is not a Hamtramck specific issue or a Wayne County issue. One of the things you'll see coming up soon is sort of a map breakdown on where some of our crimes have occurred. And especially when you get to the auto theft, what you'll see is that it is a random assortment. Again, Officer Davis touched on it being an opportunistic crime, and the data backs that up. There's no one hotspot in the city. It is wherever they find something that they're able to exploit, they're going to do it.
And that's relational to auto thefts. As we start to we're going to be putting together, as Andrew said, we call them heat maps. So it's things that have some elevations in some crimes, the heat maps are specific to these particular crimes that we're going to identify. Some of them do have some more higher probable areas, if you will, some that this information that's just come on out with some of these maps is going to be distributed down to patrol division, and it'll allow supervisors to direct patrols into some of these areas for increased watches.
Absolutely. Some of our crimes do have data correlation to certain areas, but when it comes to auto theft, again, that one is much more of a opportunistic crime.
Absolutely.
And this comes down to, the whole concept of precision policing, right? Knowing where these crimes are occurring, what times they're occurring, how they're occurring. And that's how we push it out to our officers out in the field who will tackle it, and hopefully we'll combat some of these and prevent future crimes. So it's very important to have that data in a timely manner. So we thank you, Andrew Robinson, as well as David, for pushing it out there. It's very important that our officers are well informed of all the crime trends and conditions in their specific boundaries. So it just another thing you touched upon was the kid. He was a juvenile that actually left the hit and run. And when we did speak to him, I think a lot of times they do get, they get scared and they're aware. So we want to educate the public. If you do get involved in an accident, we just need you to calm down. A lot of times they just don't know how to handle those situations. I think that's how I felt in some circumstances. There's others that do hit and they do leave, and those obviously we're going to pursue you. We're going to,
Oftentimes you'll get in a lot less trouble, even if you're, you don't have your license is suspended, you don't have insurance. It's still a greater crime to flee from the scene of an accident than it is to take and accept the consequences of your actions.
Yeah, the consequences of leaving a motor vehicle accident are pretty severe, and especially in this case where there was an injury. So, the drivers need to know, just follow the rules that you learned in driver's ed, stay calm as much as you can during a motor vehicle accident or any altercation. It's always best to stay and report and let the officers on scene investigate the actual full totality of those circumstances, because unnecessary charges for being scared are not really warranted. So,
speaking of collisions and crashes and accidents, we'll go to the traffic fatalities. We're 0 versus 0 across the board, and obviously that one incident we had compared to last year, so 1 versus 1. When we look at traffic crashes, we're slightly up. If you look at the week to date, we're 12 versus 6. And then for the 28-day, we're 47 versus 39, so we're up 20%. However, for the year to date, we are down 9%, 392 versus 432.
And some of the crashes that we're seeing. So I know the patrol division has increased some of the patrols, definitely in our south end, along Hamtramck Drive and things like that, where we see a little bit of a newer group that's wanting to do some drag racing. And it filters into some of the streets. I was on an accident scene within the last week in the mid-area, again, Brombeck and Trowbridge, Belmont, Edwin area, where a young juvenile was in a pretty decent sports car and decided to take a turn much, much faster than he should have, and actually almost launched the vehicle in between two vehicles into a yardway. And, thank goodness there were no young children there and things like that. But when we investigate the scene and the neighbors say, we heard him coming. This type of behavior is just not healthy for a dense populated city like Hamtramck. And again, the citations were issued, charges are issued, and it's reported accordingly. But the patrols are out there for this newer group that's wanting to do some of that. So again, if you see something and you see a bunch of sports cars lining up, definitely give us a call. Let the station know, because we would much rather diffuse a situation, de-escalate a situation, than have to respond to a motor vehicle crash.
Traffic laws are touching on one of the other things you said. Traffic laws are in place for a reason, especially in some places densely populated as the city of Hamtramck. 25 is really the max speed you should be going down almost all of our streets, because that, for the most part, gives you the best chance of being able to stop if someone were to run in front of you or something along those lines. So do your best to follow the traffic laws as they have been set.
Yeah, and as the chief said, though, I think the thing to celebrate still is these total numbers. And Chief, like you were saying, we're still down 10%. When we look at the surrounding jurisdictions of Detroit, of Warren, literally our next door neighbors, and when we see the news of of substantial crashes and daily and all of these and shootings and shootings and shootings, to see our numbers going down, I think it's definitely a proponent of our police presence and the mutual buy-in from our public that when they see something, they say something, and we respond accordingly.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. So we think anything else we want to add to?
Not at this time, Chief. Nope. I'm happy to be back this week. And
we just want to say we had a really safe, thankfully, Halloween. We had fun with the kids last night as well as today. We went to Hamtramck houses. Really great interaction with the policing community and just being more involved with the diverse communities of Hamtramck. So I just want to thank the officers that participated. Also thank the community members for welcoming us in their neighborhoods.
Also, thank you to all the organizations and other agencies that came out.
Yeah, what's the list? I know Michigan State Police was involved. We had
the Railroad Police were also there.
Our judge was involved.
Our judge was there. Yeah. Hamtramck Drug Free Community Coalition. There was representatives from the Detroit City Football Club, the Hamtramck Recreation Department. I don't want to miss anyone, but there's a whole lot of people there, so I'm sure I can't name an extensive list.
Yeah.
And also thank you to our Hamtramck Police Reserves who came out as well.
Yes, and also a lot of times I always say Hamtramck Police Department, and I just want to make sure people understand. When I say Hamtramck Police, I include officers and reserves, because to me everybody's one, and dispatchers and civilians, and we're all one team. End of the day, we're all reflective of the Hamtramck Police Department. Also today, this morning, where did we go for the pancakes?
That was again the PS Institute, Hamtramck Drug Free Community Coalition. Thank them again for all of the hard work that they do. They're the one of the sponsors of our drug take back. Yeah, in fact, we just a rough number, not to give you exact, but in the last 6 months or so, including with the most recent take back, we've taken about 25 or 26 pounds of prescription drugs
just in the
for proper and safe destruction in the last 6 months or so.
6 months, yeah, and I saw you actually open the bottles and dumping them in, so and I'm trying to help you, but yeah, but
it is an extensive process, but it's better to get those off the street and destroyed and properly disposed of rather than having them end up in the water stream or in the potential for a child overdose or something along those lines.
Absolutely. And then next, Chief, you also have Chief's Corner coming up. I know the mayor is scheduled mid to later of November, but I think next week or the following week, you've got Sergeant Luigi Jokai.
Sergeant Luigi Jokai. Yeah. He was appointed when I first got there, maybe about 2 weeks after my appointment. I became the business relations supervisor. He's been doing a lot of great work, ensuring that our officers visit, our businesses and address their needs and concerns, and make sure that they can conduct their businesses in a safe manner and keep everybody safe. He's done a lot of great work, Sergeant Louis, but we won't take the show from him.
Absolutely.
We'll wait until he comes in and tells us exactly what he's been doing. And we've been calculating out all the numbers and all the places that we've been visiting along the way. So he's done a lot of great work, and I think it's very important that we make sure we're engaged with our business partners and keeping everybody safe.
Sounds good.
So if we'll end it off. Like I said, we're Hamtramck Police Department. We're here to keep you safe. Thank you.